Good morning. It is 6:28 a.m. on Wednesday, July 31st, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, once again, reached the end of another month. We did it. Woohoo! Good job, you guys. Um, So I posted about this online the other day, but I'm still not obviously, but I'm still kind of going through the process of it, which is trying to declutter myself a little bit, get some of those boxes of stuff that have been sitting in my storage area and uh, where like I've been hanging on to them and moving them from place to place with this theoretical idea that like, well, what if I need it sometime or something like that? When I know that really, like that box that is 80% old USB cords that don't work. But in some cases, it's actually not. I've hung on to it not because it is the thing in question is something I think I need or will use, but rather just because I don't know what else to do with it. And so it was kind of going through this process of deciding what to do with it. And it occurred to me it's a little bit like that game F, Marry, Kill, where it's donate, keep, recycle, right? If you have a specific item and it's like, well, okay, do you want to keep it? Do you want to look at this thing and say someone else could use this, and so I want to find a place to donate? Or do you want to say this is of no use to anybody anymore, and you just want to try to dispose of it in a way that hurts as few people as possible, right? And so there's a lot of things that, like, obviously stuff that just straight up doesn't work is pretty easy to decide. You recycle, but you still have to figure out where to recycle it. So, for example, my understanding is that Best Buy accepts electronics recycling. And that's actually one thing. That's a step that, like, I have a fair amount of stuff that obviously should be recycled, but I wasn't sure where until I actually did the research. Which, it's like when you're trying to declutter already, everything that requires an extra step is already adding to the difficulty level, right? Not that it's terribly hard to do a little bit of research like that, but it's a matter of when, it's like the idea of spoon theory, right? It's, if you're already only trying to take care of this with any little tiny amount of excess energy that you already have, anything that requires that much more, it's all the more likely that it just doesn't get done. And so then when you start saying, okay, well, there are some things that, obviously belong in the recycle pile. And then you can start saying, okay, well, if you want to use the idea of the whole does it spark joy thing to decide whether you keep it, that, I don't know. I mean, I haven't actually read the book or watched the show, the Marie Kondo stuff. So I suppose I could do that and get a deeper understanding of the whole idea. But just the phrase, does it spark joy? I mean, I kind of tend to feel like, well, how much of a spark? Because if the only spark is, I really liked this once upon a time, but know for a fact that I would never ever use it again, it's like, is that enough of a spark? I'm not sure it always is, because I think there are a lot of people for whom, oh, I remember this fondly. It is a thing that I once enjoyed, but will never use again. It's like, does that count as a spark? I think it probably could, but then you end up keeping almost everything. Anyway, and then, obviously there are things that you want to say, okay, well, someone else could use this, but then you have the extra, it doesn't, so Kim is saying that it does not spark joy, you thank it and then move on. Okay, but I mean, what's the difference between this makes me happy to think about and sparks joy? I'm not sure I follow the distinction. Anyway, it's all kind of a moot point here because, we could get into this philosophy and semantics of it, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. But it's the idea of, you could say, in principle, this is a thing that I should donate. Someone could make use of this. But I mean, that doesn't solve the problem, because then you have to figure out, okay, like, where would actually take this? Where is somewhere that what is something you could actually do in the real world, in real life, that would get it to someone who could use it? And so, like, there are thrift stores, and then there are other sorts of charities and everything. But so in particular, the items that I was having a little bit of struggle with the other day were old video game things, like a Nintendo GameCube or old NES cartridges that are, they work, but they're kind of beat up. They're not in collector condition at all. And I don't think that I would ever play them again, because even though I think classic games are something that absolutely are fun and good to play, there's actually other better ways to play those things now, usually. And so it's just kind of a decision of, like, well, I guess, is the feeling... So what it always becomes is, like, okay, if you already have a big box of stuff that's going to be recycled, and some of it you feel like maybe it ought to be donated, but then that requires the extra steps of figuring out where to donate it. And the only problem is that when anything requires those extra steps and extra energy, it makes it all the more likely that I give up and just put the box back in my storage area. Anyway, I'm working on it. I am making progress on stuff, but that's part of what I've been thinking about last week or so, is trying to clear out some of that stuff that I know I really don't need. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, but I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.